Welcome to another exciting episode of Let's Talk Africa podcast. Today we're talking EdTech. I'm excited to have this guest in here today to help me talk about this. He is Senyo Jiagge. He's co-founder and CEO of QKnow, and we'll be talking about the EdTech space in Ghana today. Welcome, Senyo. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for having me, Kwame.
Right. Thank you for joining the Let's Talk Education podcast. So tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Okay. So my name is Senyo Jiagge, as you mentioned earlier.
Right.
I'm the co-founder and CEO of QKnow EdTech. We're a data-driven educational software company with the aim of improving the delivery of quality education to students and other stakeholders within the educational system.
Right.
So why I say improving the delivery is we try and use different mediums, especially technology mainly, to at least give students different ways to assimilate knowledge. I think from the time we were in school until now, kids learn differently, or they use different means and methods to understand what is being taught.
Right.
So everything has changed. So that means solution-based, technology also should change to match what the students need. So that's mainly what our company does.
Okay.
Background, I would say I didn't actually learn tech in school. I did economics, geography, political science, but I've always had a love for technology. So
interesting.
I think, from senior high school going to university, it's always been something I had, actually liked. And the good thing about tech is that you can learn it on your own time as well. I mean, those who actually go and study it in school, they don't just go into the lecture halls or whatever and then just stop there, and then you have your certificate. Nah, they improve upon themselves by, keep on learning, finding out which new languages are coming out. I mean, YouTube is a very good resource where a lot of developers, programmers actually use that as a way to teach themselves. So you have this whole section of developers training themselves on how to improve their skills. So why can't we do the same thing for normal, teaching and learning in school, where there should be more ways for you to explore learning outside the traditional medium or method as it is. So that's one way we wanted to, or we envisioned our product, QKnow EdTech, reaching as many people to enhance the whole form of personalized learning. So that's our solution to the problem of lack of quality education, content, materials, and also the reach, getting education to so many people. I mean, the previous method is always the classroom, teacher standing in front of class. But then if you don't have those things, or if you don't have the physical location, and now where Africa is growing in terms of technology or mobile penetration into the markets, where you have a lot of these carrier or companies, you're talking about the Technos, the Apples, the Samsungs, they're making even more affordable products so that they can actually get to the numbers, in Africa. So mobile is really doing a lot in terms of mobile handsets are really doing a lot in terms of getting technology out there. You have tablets, you have computers, and then aside that, internet penetration into, not just urban areas, but then also rural areas as well. I mean, we can still do better in terms of rural areas, but at least the penetration is there. So having an EdTech that can go beyond just the urban areas, go beyond just the teaching in the classroom and then home tutors and other things, where your device is basically your classroom now, and then our software, QKnow EdTech, delivers educational content for a student to be able to learn at any time, anywhere, and on their own, basically on their own. So that's QKnow EdTech in a nutshell.
Interesting. The thing that's standing out to me is the fact that with the advent of, if you like, edtech and its or technology, and then consequently edtech and its products, it has democratized learning. So, like you mentioned earlier, aside these edtech products facilitating teaching and learning in the formal classroom as we know it, it has also created the opportunity where you can sit in the comfort of your home, and then once you have access to electricity, internet, you are good to go. You are literally in your own classroom. And I think that's really exciting about that's something that really excites me about the whole idea of edtech, really. Good stuff. Let's delve in. Let's talk. Serious matters, if you like. So in your opinion, right, or give me your take on how edtech has transformed, or is transforming the traditional classroom, and what benefits, does it offer to students and teachers?
Okay. So I'd say edtech, the whole tech thing about it is tech mainly has come into the world to disrupt old ways of doing things. And when I say disrupt, I'm not saying disrupt in a bad way, but then improving the user experience for the consumer. So you would have the old way where you look at other industries, fintech, health tech, finance, health, where now tech startups are actually getting into those spaces and trying to improve the services or the products that were rendered in the past, and then give the consumer or the end user a better experience of things. So in the same way, this is being applied to education as well. Education is, I would say, one of the oldest businesses in the world. I mean, from the times of, you're looking at Plato, Aristotle, and things like that, where they're actually being taught in class. We don't know what the transaction was, but then knowledge couldn't have been free then. You understand? And knowledge has been passed. Knowledge has been passed from those times until now. And there's always an exchange of something. So you're exchanging money for knowledge. And that's how our primary schools work, our junior schools, our colleges, universities, everything. That's how it works. So, but now you're looking at improving, the exchange of information. So then you're looking at the teacher side of things, and they're also looking at the student side of things. So this generation Z, generation Alpha, they consume education in different ways. In our time, you have the teacher in front of the classroom, you have your blackboard, and then the teacher is basically dictating what should be taught. I mean, what should be learned to the children. See, and then at the end, you're supposed to write your notes. They'll quiz you, maybe a classwork, or you go home, you do an assignment, and then there's exam at the end of the term. And basically, you're just trying to consume all of that. Time is not really beneficial to you, so you try and chew and then pour. So you have a lot of students being churned out from our systems where they don't really understand the courses that they did in school, because I mean, I just want to get to the next level, make my parents proud. I've done primary, I've done JHS, I've done SHS, I'm in uni, So the process there where you just understand, you pour it out, maybe you get a good degree, you go into the job market and then get a good job or something. But then at the end of the day, are you applying what you've learned in class? All those practical things where we don't actually have the practical side of things in the classroom because of facility. The class timetable, there's no time to do experiments and things like that. So the teachers are basically drawing experiments on the blackboard. And I mean, I did science in SHS for a bit, where you'd go into the classroom and then our teacher was drawing apparatus and things on the blackboard. And you just have to imagine these things, you see. So you don't have that full practical feel of things. So now EdTech has come in, especially in Africa, where we don't have the time for experiments, we don't have the resources for these things. You have very good, products that actually maybe developing an experiment in the form of animation or videos to show the students that this is actually how it translates from the book into the real world. So this is how an experiment is being done. So you can actually read it like that. I mean, you can actually watch it and then understand it. And then the teachers can also, pick this type of content and teach it in the class. So it's not just, writing on the blackboard. So you're trying to change the user experience for the students and the teachers. So we at QKnow EdTech, we developed our platform to serve teachers, to serve students, to serve the school as the headmasters or administrators to serve them as well, and then also parents. So for the teachers, I mean, giving you content that you can use to teach the students in class. But for the students, consuming this content in a different form for, students love, I mean, cartoons. You have the Disney World, you have, Disney Channel, you have Nickelodeon and things, and basically every series that comes. So they're learning new things in different mediums. So we could do the same thing with education, where you transform it to match their eyes, to match what they want to learn. So basically, EdTech is doing that. EdTech is giving the solution a makeover in terms of how we can, change from the theory side of things into the practical side. If there are no tools that students can use in their free time, at least you can watch it and understand it. So when you get into the real world, you understand what is being, done in certain situations, and you apply your knowledge to these situations. So you don't look, out of place, having learned a specific course. So EdTech does that. It simplifies, how things will be taught, and it also gives more in terms of the value of the content delivery as well. So we just picked on the principles with our product, give teachers a platform where they can create, I mean, they can record videos of things that, could be taught in class, and then have the class, I mean, get into class, I mean, publish those videos, let students have access to those videos during the weekend, and then when you get into class from Monday to Friday, then have a classroom where there's more of a conversation feel instead of uh, one where the teacher is having to dictate. We need classroom settings where students are confident enough to, have read things or watch things over the weekend and then come into the class and be more of an active learner than a passive one. So you have the situation where teachers are talking, students are talking, and then it's just, learning in a different way, in a wholesome way. So EdTech does that, and then QKnow EdTech, our product, does that as well. So it's changing how the process would work for teachers and students.
I like the part where you say that EdTech is basically facilitating or creating an avenue where teaching and learning is done in a wholesome way. I particularly like that word, wholesome, because that's what I mean. Essentially, education should be. Good stuff. Good stuff. I am really excited about what I am hearing so far. So quickly, I remember with regards to our BTS discussions we had some time back. With the advent of the unfortunate pandemic, which is the COVID-19 pandemic, right? And I remember telling you about how I witnessed firsthand how it really disrupted the education, the education space. But then again, 2-3 years down the line, would you say that the COVID-19 pandemic, served as a significant catalyst or accelerator for the adoption of EdTech in the Ghanaian space?
Yeah. So I think COVID-19, a lot of EdTech companies or solutions will say it was a blessing in disguise for them. I mean, you look at everything that happened, it was an unfortunate event. But then for people in the tech space where you basically need, technology to carry out your business, it was a blessing in disguise for everything. I mean, look at Zoom. Before pandemic, how many people, apart from corporate offices, were using Zoom as a way of communicating with, each other or, your loved ones or friends? And we were all basically on lockdown. You needed new ways to connect, and Zoom came out as a solution to that sense of social interaction. So in the same way, the pandemic helped EdTech with regards to the businesses flourishing, the solutions being needed more. I mean, I can use ourselves for example, going into schools, trying to preach on our product, trying to sell it to school owners and things, and say, hey, we have this product, and we think it can help learning and teaching and improve student outcomes. I mean, during those periods, they'll be like, oh yeah, we like it. But then, it's more of a white elephant to them because it wasn't essential. I remember the week before the pandemic, the lockdown started, we actually went to a school, and then the owner, said he wasn't interested in the product. Then the next week, I think it was a Monday or Tuesday, then you hear schools are going to be locked down. I got a call from that same owner the next day saying that, you know what, I think we need to come on board. How quickly can we roll this thing out? So it just changed. I mean, so if you had been preparing for a long time with your product and saying that eventually people will come around, that just accelerated everything. So the pandemic had been a very big catalyst in terms of making edtech a good solution to schools, for students and parents, where now you see the value of it. So many different edtech solutions companies sprung up during that period, and there was a whole new interest with regards to funding into this space where people were developing very, very good solutions, and then you see a lot more investor activity in these, solutions because there was a need for it then. So one thing with that is eventually we'll go back to, getting to the classroom. So then you have to evolve your product in terms of where do we go from here? Where now they're back into the classrooms. Is there still a need for what we're, producing or what we are building? If not, how do we change it to still, align with what is being done in the classroom? So, as I said earlier, education should be a wholesome experience. One thing you'd or teachers would agree is with us is that time is a factor in terms of what you're supposed to teach in school. You get into the classroom, you may have 2 periods for like 40 minutes or something, and then you have your syllabus or the curriculum telling you that you have to achieve this by the time the term is over. A lot of them will complain that the time is not enough. So then EdTech also becomes a solution where you're putting your assignments, you're putting your classroom onto these platforms, or I mean, if you're that type of EdTech, and then also you can teach via video as well, where you pre-record some lessons. If you have 15 topics to deliver in the term, and then you only have 12 weeks to do that. I mean, some of these topics can be pre-recorded based on a EdTech solution, and then kids have access to these things. So you're now aligning with what is, being done in class, where there's not enough time, but being a teacher, you'd say, go home, watch this video, take this quiz, and then when we come back, first 10, 15 minutes, we go over what you've learned, and then, we get into the next lesson. So it's saving people that time, that very, precious time that they didn't have before. So now you align it with how things have changed or how things have gone back to normal in schools.
Really interesting. Wow. So in your opinion, EdTech, especially after the pandemic or during and after the pandemic, and its related products, etc., has come to stay?
Yeah. I really believe, it has come to stay. I mean, in Africa, I would say last year it hit, I think EdTech, investment in EdTech reached about $1 billion.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's the interest is there, but you have to be very good with your product or your offering, and then ensure that it's solving a problem. Or I mean, not everything has to solve a problem, but you can find new ways to do things better. So if you're doing something better, if the teaching the process is better, then it helps. Then the interest is there. Yeah. So there's so many ways to approach, edtech. The different niches. People can just focus on mathematics and then deliver mathematics in an engaging way. People do super apps where they're taking care of every topic. People are just looking at, the video side of things. People are looking at gamifying, you know, the whole educational process. So the EdTech has so many different compartments or niches where you can really exploit those things and then deliver a product that matches or speaks to students or consumers in a unique way.
Wow. Good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah. Good stuff. I mean, I'm excited about it. I mean, and day in, day out, I hear about so much products and innovations that are coming up, and I'm like, wow. So it's not surprising to hear that there's a lot of investments being put into that space. Okay. My follow-up question would be, I mean, especially with our context, so Ghana, and I'm sure we can expand it to other countries on the continent, right? There is a rapid, if you like, adoption of tech, especially in the West, right?
Yeah.
But then, how is the education industry adapting to this rapid pace of tech change? Like, I mean, with the beginning of the year now, I think there was there's this new product, ChatGPT, right? So, I mean, the question I want to ask is, how is the education industry adapting to this rapid pace of technological change? And what skills, right, do teachers need to effectively incorporate EdTech in their classrooms?
Yeah. Okay. So, education or trying to change or, transform or disrupt education, it's always been a challenge in Ghana. So, I mean, people love the way things have been in the past. So, and then, I mean, we're so used to it where maybe trying to introduce something into a school, it needs a lot of time. It needs a lot of attention. You have to get the teachers on board. You understand? You should be able to convince them that what you're bringing to them is something that can help them. I mean, you build your product around their needs, So that's just the first step of things. If adoption over here in Ghana is a bit slow, even moving on to all these new AI tools, the Chat GPT and other things, it'll take some time. I mean, with us building QKnow EdTech, the main idea was that we'll use learning data to improve academic outcomes for students. So we have been collecting, learning data through quiz results, how the students interact with QKnow EdTech and other things, just so that we, in our human capacity, could be able to understand how our students are thinking, how they're answering questions, and then we analyze on our back end, doing it as human beings. But the idea long term was to incorporate AI tools that will, understand these things and then um, transform or basically give a personalized learning experience to the same students. I mean, students consume education differently. You have really smart kids, you have, average kids, then some who are not doing too well. But then if you give them a more personalized experience, that's one thing that EdTech can do, where teachers will just teach 30 students at a time. They don't really have time to, focus on individual students. So then that becomes a problem. So EdTech is able to do things like this, where if I'm really poor in class, the tool or the AI tool has been able to understand how I am as a student and then, deliver education in a way that will help me improve in class. So, so you have to preach those things to the teacher that, you know what, you can put your content, I mean, we'll model it in a way where it will improve that academic outcome of all your students. Improve it in a way where you as a teacher, you become a lot more confident in them going to write a BECE or any final exams because you've done your part. I mean, no teacher, I believe no teacher wants a student to fail. I mean, you're teaching them to improve, pass, and then move on to the next stage of life. So why can't, you use tech to do that? So eventually, a teacher has to be, you know, accustomed to the changing trends in technology, embrace them and say that, tech is not here to replace me as a teacher, but it's here to help me improve upon my teaching methods, improve upon my content delivery, and then improve my students as well. So you embrace it like that, then there's no friction when an edtech solution or a company comes into the school and says, we have this product and we believe that it will help the students. Because if we are slow to adopt these things, then you own technology skills, that you're understanding how these things work, then it should help you be the best version of a teacher you can be. So we need to encourage our teachers. I think there should be a policy change as well, where it's coming from government. I mean, Ghanaians, we listen to government a lot, aside aside private companies. Things like education it's really a government mandate, where they also have to improve upon their policies, make it in a way that they're giving level playing ground for all edtech, that you can go into the schools and then these teachers and this they'll be more likely to embrace you with your solution. So teachers have to embrace technology. I mean, the kids they're doing it already because they have access to these things. So teachers also have to come up with it. That's one thing. That's in terms of AI tools, ChatGPT, use it for benefit. Not shouldn't be a competitor to you. Use it to improve your methods. That's what I'll say.
So basically, with the speed at which tech is increasing in terms of innovation and use, there should also be the whole mindset change with regards to the way our schools and teachers view these technological changes, if you like, or disruptions, if you like.
Yeah.
Great. We are going to go for a quick break, and then we'll come back to engage in this particularly riveting discussion. Welcome back from the break. I hope you are enjoying the conversation so far. Senyo, before the break, we ended on the fact that there needs to be, if you like, an overall mindset change in terms of the way our educational institutions and its stakeholders, which includes the teachers especially, to embrace and adopt. And then if you like, leverage on all the positives that we can gain from using and leveraging on these tech and EdTech products, correct?
Yeah, good, that's true. Good. That's very true. Yeah.
Good. Follow-up question. So how in general do you measure the success and effectiveness of EdTech, tools in the classroom, and what are the metrics that you use?
Okay, so I think if you're looking at a business standpoint, you're looking at numbers, basically numbers, revenue. So numbers are maybe how many students or teachers are signed on to your platform, and then maybe how many are subscribed. I mean, if you offer that type of service, we do a subscription service, so we have monthly, termly, and then yearly. Then so we also look at the numbers as well. How many schools are using? How many students in those schools are using? I mean, how many students in general, not affiliated to any schools that we might have signed on. So that is one side where you say if the numbers are high or if they're growing month on month, year on year, then you have a success there because they're looking at it as a solution to help them. Somebody would come on, and if they're, 1 month, but if they're there for 2-3 months, then you know that yes, you have hit something meaningful, and they'll be there for a long time. Then aside that, so I mentioned earlier that we use learning data to improve academic outcomes. So let's say you use QKnow for the first time, and you average maybe over 10 or 40% or whatever it is. So then we see that would be your starting point, or basically your starting point. So our mission as a company or for each child is that by the time they're done with the term or academic year, we're moving you closer to be an 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 student, 100% students, you see. So if we're able to look at where your faults are, share that information with your teachers, your parents, and then be able to, design the experience on the platform, or we notice that you're about to fail in certain, subjects or certain topics, then we quickly share that information with the teacher that, Profinanza is not really doing too well in division or something. So is there a way that you could, re-strategize your teaching methods to include him in terms of making it be more, real or more meaningful to that student so that they can understand what division is all about. And then, you see that if they're able to apply the new teaching methods that they've been given, then you test them again, and then now they're scoring 6 over 10. Chances are that if you double down on what you have changed, they should be improving. But then teachers should also, or parents in general, should also know that students have learning disabilities as well. In the past, maybe a child isn't doing too well, and in class, but then when you engage them one-on-one, you see that they're very good. So there are several types of learning disabilities. I mean, some children can't really read, some have attention deficits, some there's a fear of math. All these disabilities have names we can go into another time, but then basically these are things that through our assessment we try and understand or pinpoint that, through different assessments, you can find out that this child is having difficulty in reading. This child has difficulty in calculations and math. This child, the attention is not really there, but then they're actually really bright. So these are things that, if we're able to identify and then bring, this information to teachers and parents, and then real solutions, physical solutions can also be touched on with this, then we also have success there as well. So aside the numbers and revenue, aside improving academic performances, then you also have identifying disabilities and then trying to solve them or trying to, manage them, I feel that it's also a success as well. So there are different ways you can, the yardstick for measuring success in edtech is varied. So it depends on what you really aim to do. And we at QKnow EdTech, we aim to achieve all these three things I've mentioned. So that's how we measure success, or we believe that we're improving the lives of our users, being both teachers and students, and then also owners of schools and parents as well.
So being able to quickly identify maybe issues or areas where a child or the students may be struggling in, and number two is being able to quickly identify if the student has maybe a learning disability, etc.
Yeah.
And then being able to take steps to, if you like, double down on a particular topic or a particular exercise in order to get the students up to par on the same level.
Exactly.
Brilliant. Sounds incredibly good. But I mean, I'm hearing all of these things, and I think history has served us enough teachings to make us realize that with everything there's a downside, right? So far I've heard everything up and really exciting about edtech and its products, etc. So my follow-up question to that would be, what are the ethical considerations and potential drawbacks of relying too heavily on tech in the education space?
Okay.
Are there any downsides at all?
I would say everything has a downside. I mean, people will tell you that eat this type of food is good for your system or something, but there are also schools of thought that would say too much of this is not good. So there's a good side and then there's a bad side. The same with tech, the same with different mediums for education. The problem we face a lot. I mean, this comes up a lot when we're pitching our product to schools, school owners, and other things. Is that good? Won't our children become too addicted to these methods? Well, what are we doing to cull their excessive use of tech, or even when it comes to the AI tools now? I mean, people are using ChatGPT to write full essays for them. Where now lecturers are concerned that would they be able to pinpoint which essays are genuine, which ones are AI generated. So there's so many good sides, but then there are also bad sides. So coming back to where a school would say parents are complaining about their children using their product or using their phones too much or things like that. Yes, I'll say it's a problem. Yes, because I mean the whole blue light thing. They tell you that put away your phone before you go to sleep, but people use their devices to learn, to cram seriously before an exam. So that's a good side, but then the bad side is also it's too much for students at a certain level. So they're addicted to it. They can't live without their phones,
Exactly.
A lot of students use their phones for social, connection, social media and other things like that. So the TikToks, the Twitter, the Snapchats, I'm not mentioning Facebook, because they say it's for we the older ones, but the Instagrams and things, but it could be that the child is using the edtech solution and then they get distracted a bit. A friend sends in a message from another platform and then quickly the child jumps there and then they just enter a rabbit hole of watching video content, funny memes and things like that, new challenges, dance challenges, new things. And that problem is there. Where if you are to dedicate your time to learning for an hour, you need to learn for that hour. And then if there's fun time after that, you do that. Parents introduce screen time to their homes where we're giving you 2 hours, a day to be on a phone or on your tablet. Now, social media companies, apps, they also track your usage, where, I mean, if they say you spend 10 hours on TikTok on Monday, I mean, it's not to shame you or, I mean, it's not to shame you, but it's to give you the reality that 10 hours of your day has been used on this platform. So
Right.
they're trying to manage how you're using the platform, not, let you overdo it. So I think with us, EdTech, what we're trying to do is one thing we try and do is with our time quizzes is when you're taking a quiz, it can be timed for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or 5 minutes. You're supposed to be on that quiz, finish it, because when the time runs out and you haven't solved all the questions, you've missed out on full marks. Those marks, they get recorded. So if you're doing accumulative, assessments where you got 5 out of 10 and you're a 10 out of 10 student, but the reason why you got 5 out of 10 was a friend sent a message and then you went to the
You
other
got
classroom. When you
distracted.
came back, you're distracted. So you weren't
Right.
able to hit that mark. You
Mm-hmm.
see, so we put in those measures where you're doing that. Some parents, some schools will ask, can you lock it on your platform?
Mm-hmm.
That they
Mm-hmm.
can't go outside those things.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's something we've considered, but I think there's a lot of work that goes into it because
Mm-hmm.
you don't want your product or whatever you're offering to come off as boring eventually, that when I come, I'm supposed to do 3 hours on QKnow and then I can't do anything else. Eventually, those daily active usage, the monthly active usage, and other metrics you measure yourself on will just start dropping down because a kid or a student is just fed up with what you're offering. They also want to feel social.
Exactly.
They want to have that social feel. They want to connect with their friends, their peers, and other things. But um, because you're limited to just one this thing, then it stops that. So I think there's more work to be done in terms of managing time on these platforms. I mean, tech is good; it solves things. EdTech is good as well, but also managing the time you spend on these platforms should be done in a healthy way where they should be wanting to come back. They should also have time for social listening and social interactions, and then just manage everything well where they're not being led astray by what is in front of them. So parents really have to come in as well. I mean, we try and work with everybody where parents are also doing their bits, where they're monitoring their students physically. That
Mm.
um, be more engaging with your child to see what or see how they're using these platforms because kids these days they're smart.
Mm-hmm.
It could be that they're using the thing for a bit, but then you look away and then they're back to other things. So if you're being honest with how you want them to engage with all these things, it's more than likely that they'll actually go with what you're saying. So we new generation of parents or would-be parents should be actively involved in children's education, how they use tech, so that tech is used well, and then the complaints and other things are minimal. So when school owners and parents ask me this, I try and say that it's a joint effort where
Mm.
everybody is involved. I mean, we can provide the solution, but the human side should not be, taken for granted. We should be involved in how they use these products and give them that social, interaction, but just for a small time. It's good for their well-being as well.
Mm.
So that's a good side of tech, but then the bad side, and then how to manage the
Right.
bad side as well. Yeah.
Right. So basically there has to be a collaborative effort with the, if you like,
Efforts.
the solution one, and then
Yeah,
two with the schools, and then number three
yeah,
with the parents.
with
Just
the
so,
parents, yeah,
to make sure that we leverage enough, or if you like, squeeze enough of the good juices from the EdTech products that we are leveraging on to improve our students and improve overall education.
Exactly.
Fantastic stuff. Fantastic stuff. It's crazy how time flies when you are discussing really interesting stuff. Finally,
there's never enough time.
I know, right? So finally, what advice would you give to educators and students looking to effectively integrate EdTech into their learning and teaching? And if you could share some resources available to help them to do so.
Okay. So basically, my advice would be you should be open-minded. I mean, we've said it before, but you should be open-minded because it might become cliche or it's maybe being oversaid, but tech really is the future. Really is the future. And the reason why we're seeing improvements in machine learning, AI, and things is that there's certain people who predicted that eventually we'll move off just personal computers, get into laptops, get into tablets and phones. The core tech would improve, and that's you're talking about hardware and stuff. But eventually, software will also match up with what these things are doing. So if we in Africa, we in Ghana, are not ready to accept the changes, then we'll lag behind greatly, and we won't be able to match up with students from other countries or even other syllables that are being practiced in Ghana itself, because people complain that GS might be outmoded. I mean, there's not enough practical learning. So you're more inclined to try and send your child to a school that is, doing another type of curriculum or syllabus. But we can advance GS to reach those levels where there's not really a need to move your child from a GS school into a Cambridge or an American syllabus. I mean, we have to match up to that. And it's all down to, open-mindedness, where teachers should be open-minded. They should be, if they believe in your products, they should be, serious spokespersons for your product. They should convince parents that their students will be better off if they use these products and we join hands in using these products for the whole school's good or for the whole educational sector's good. You understand? So that same way, you should be very active in searching for the best EdTech products for your school. And also, I mean, not just look outside to the foreign solutions. I mean, there are so many good EdTech solutions coming out from Ghana, coming out from West Africa, where these ones can be used to the fullest, extreme in Ghana itself. I mean, we ourselves will position ourselves to deliver our product in a very good way. We look at where the gaps are and then try and, create a feature or create a product to match those gaps. Our BECE prep kit right now is one of our best selling products because parents are looking for their wards or their students who are candidates writing the BECE this year or previous years. They're looking for a resource or a solution that will ensure that their children are ready for the BECE. Or we also give the ability to project how they actually do when they write the exam. So if your child is going to score 8 ones or 9 ones, I mean, we can see that based on the patterns of the learning data being processed and being, visualized for us. So at least parents are now satisfied that, oh, we're able to use the BECE prep kit with, our child, and then it looks like they're going to do really well. And then they come out at the end of it, and then they get the first choice school. So we have a track record of doing that. But then other types of edtechs are there where they do other things, and we should embrace all these things, And another thing also is we should do a lot more reading. I mean, you give birth to a child, you have children at home, you should be involved in how, education is shaping their lives. So you should read wide. What type of, things should they be learning at this level? Are you in contact with the schools? Are they measuring up to what they say they should do? So you should take that active role in your ward's life or your child's life and be there because you want the best for them. In the past, you'd say, as growing up, you have to do things in a certain way. But we've been through that system where, you know, tech we grew up with tech. We saw the change from book into tech being a solution. So we grew up, I would say we are the ones who actually, generation, or millennials were the ones who actually saw the change or witnessed the change in real time, where we're in school whilst these things happened, and then now tech was being, introduced in some way or form. Those who came after us, the Gen Zs, were basically trained on tech straight out. So some don't even know what things are like before those times. You show a child a landline and they're basically like, what is that?
Right.
But we saw those things. We saw those things. So it's up to us to be involved in, kids' lives, students' lives, and then, read more, read wide, and then grasp these things and then also share knowledge, to be involved with what assignments they bring home. You might not be able to solve it with them, but at least giving them that attention will help them improve one way or the other. Having meetings with teachers, just finding out how students are doing in class, how they're doing in terms of preparation for final exams. All these things are important. So there should be a more active role with us also learning on our own. I mean, you're on the job market, you're employed, you're working and things. It doesn't mean that you should do away with education. One thing is that education is a big currency in Ghana, where everybody wants to advance in a certain way. You want to hold these degrees because it might help in, your offices and other things. So it helps you in a certain way. It doesn't mean that when you're done, you discard it. No, education is very important still. We're learning on the job, we're learning through corporate training and other things. So there's so many things that, education can do. So older people also have to relearn a few things to improve as well.
Senyo Jiagge, co-founder and CEO of QKnow. Thank you so much for hopping on this with me. Thank you for opening up the discussion on tech, EdTech, and the amazing things that it's doing and could potentially do for us in the future. Thank you and your team for being part of that community that is coming up with local solutions to local problems in Ghana. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for hopping on this. I am really, really,
thank you for having me.